exactly the same, but they're all different prices. And so they got it. That was an example of they got it. And so it's looking for, that's to me the logic on fire thing, is how do we find ways to illustrate stories, examples, experiences where people can really get it and understand it. And so point number 3 is, am I working on those kinds of skills to help the people I'm trying to influence get it? Point number 5 is a tricky one too, around tone. I'm sure you found yourself at times saying it's not what they're saying that has my back up or has me resisting, it's how they're saying, the way they're coming across. So how can I get feedback on my tone? Because it's hard for me to recognize that in myself. What are ways, or maybe what are things you've done in the past as you've tried to get feedback on the way you come across? Ask some people that maybe you trust and work with. How's it coming across? Sure. Any kind of mentoring, and have you taken on some mentors and somebody that can coach you a little bit? So they might be able to look for some of that.
They might have run this by you before I would speak to them.
Yep. How does this come across? How does this sound to you? Sure. Or sometimes maybe even in a meeting, you might ask someone that, again, that you trust and you know is pretty open with you, if you're perhaps making a presentation or trying to sell an idea in a meeting, to give you feedback afterwards. How did that come across? How could it be more effective? You look like you were going to say something.
I think the reactions of our life partners tell us something very often.
Yeah, that might tell us what how we're coming across, what our tone is, yeah. Someone once said 90% of the friction of daily life is caused by the wrong tone of voice. And tone, especially maybe with our life partners, is key. So we go on down the list. Obviously our credibility, numbers 7, 9, 10, our credibility, our trust levels, the kind of relationship that we have, they're going to play highly into how much influence we're going to have. Number 11, you'll see in the Leader's Digest book, I referenced some of Deborah Meyerson's work at Stanford University. She's done a lot of excellent work over the years on, she calls it tempered radicals, individuals inside of organizations, large complex ones usually, who have managed to hit that tipping point and bring about change in the organization, but have done it in a way that have stayed inside the organization, and she calls them tempered radicals. They've tempered their approach, but they've brought about some radical change. So they've learned how to work the system. And a big one is this point number 11, that they tend to be quite good at understanding the kind of the political leverage points inside the organization, who listens to who, where the influence points are, and how to really work those through. Then lastly, I put my pointed rule and position at the bottom of this list to say sometimes when we're in an appointed role, we will maybe over-rely on our authority, our position, to influence. And other times when we're not in a formal role, we might undersell ourselves and not recognize the degree to which these other factors can help to influence. So here's an exercise I'd like you to do, is having had this discussion then about influence, and we talked a bit earlier about direct control, no control, go over to page 17. Take a couple minutes in your group and just fill in a few examples of things, and it's going to vary all around your group, especially the 4 outside tables here. It would be less so maybe with the 2 groups in the middle. But what are a couple of examples of things that at your local level you have high control over, in your local job or in the responsibility that you have? What are examples of things that you can influence, and what are the things that you have no control over at all? So let's just take a couple quick examples. Maybe fill in about 2 in each column there.